History will remember our days as the days of the Great Migration and as the years when different cultures meet and clash. Mass migration and migratory flows have always existed, but never up to now has there been a constant movement of people like that. Millions of people flee from Africa and Asia because they seek well-being in Europe. It's clear that this phenomenon is one of the most important in the New World. We live in a society in constant movement, in a society marked by changes which occurs not only at global level, as in trade, but at social level too. In the past, masses of people moved toward unpopulated territory, whereas now modern migrations are moving toward inhabited areas. This mixture of cultures, languages, religions, and ethnic groups will have to find a compromise. Migratory movements have profoundly affected the culture of those who moved, but also of those who stayed in motherland, creating mixing cultures in the country of arrival. It may lead to problems for integration, and the European identity will experience a crisis. According to some statistics, between 1840 and 1932, about 18 million people left England, 11 million people left Italy, and 6.5 million people left Spain and Portugal. Starting from 1970 on, European nations shift from being countries of emigrants to countries of immigrants. Between 1980 and 1990, their number increased. Inevitably, the society underwent a dramatic change. Sociologists like Stephen Castles and Mark Miller define contemporary era as the age of migration. Nowadays, almost a billion out of 7 billion people that populate the planet carries out internal displacement or international displacement, meaning 1 out of 7 of the inhabitants of the earth should be considered as on the go today. The Great Migration is the peak of a process that developed into three phases after the Second World War. The movement concerned two main routes, the Eastern Mediterranean and the Western Mediterranean. The first starting in Central Asia, crossing Turkey, Greece, and streaming into Germany and Scandinavian countries. The second route left from sub-Saharan Africa and it was streaming into the south of Italy, firstly in the Isles of Lampedusa, Sicily, and Pantelleria. This flow rise due to the increase of poverty in Africa and Asia, religious, political, and economic wars in Libya, Egypt, Iraq, and Pakistan. What's scary about the Great Migration is its unstoppable flow starting in the same moment of the big economic crisis and the outbreak of the terrorism threat in Europe. We can determine the impact of this phenomenon just one generation ahead. Probably it will change the lifestyle and the aspect of our countries as the discovery of America and the Industrial Revolution did. Today, how do European countries welcome the great migration flows? Mistrust and hospitality seem the only two ways. It's believed that integration means to adopt traditions, attitudes, food, religion of the host community. But this process is not as simple. Newcomers want to preserve their identity. Integration takes place in several fields, such as the economic, political, social, and personal ones. What's the future going to be like? Another important aspect of the Great Migration is education. States cannot control migration is the truth. Before leaving their country, migrants have already seen the face of Europe through the internet and social media. They nourish a desire of the West. How will the first meeting with Europeans be? On the one side, there is the expectations of migrants, but on the other side, there are the opinions of local people. The problem of two cultures is at the root. Migrants live at the border of two different cultures and take part of the cultural life of two different countries, unable to detach themselves from the past. Nowadays, Europe is experiencing a strong crisis of identity. Can we try to imagine the migratory situation in 10 years? Can we see a peaceful situation? Europe is a democratic entity and is committed for centuries whereby the rights of everyone are being respected. There are lots of gaps between native and migrants, such as gestures, irony, style of speech, and proverbs. The migration of our days represents a challenge which will leave its mark on history. The truth is that Europe has not yet developed a holistic approach to deal with the Great Migration. A pure culture doesn't exist. The destiny of mankind is characterized by the meeting of different cultures.